How much fun is this team to watch? Especially when they're playing the way they have been so far in 2023. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken pick up their 4th win in a row for the 3rd time this season, and their 3rd win in a row on the road in Canada. A place that, in spite of its reputation, wasn't all that kind to them last season. But this year has been a very different year, as we well know. Again, with this being their 3rd 4-game winning streak of the season, something they didn't do at all last year, and also with it coming with their 3rd 8-point game of the season. Again, something that didn't happen at all in their inaugural year. And speaking of things that they didn't do in 21-22, they never did get a 12th win on the road, which is also what they pick up with this win in Ottawa. So here we are, less than halfway through the season. In fact, 38 games in, so still 3 games shy of it. And the Kraken already have a franchise record for road wins in a single year. And I may end up doing here in the next week or so a full video on the difference from last season to this season, but probably the biggest difference in what's gotten the Kraken to where they're at so far here halfway through would be way more goal scoring. So exactly what we saw tonight. Where last season, the Kraken finished 29th in the league in goals for, just behind the Chicago Blackhawks with 2.6 per game. And so far this season, they are 3rd in the NHL with over a goal more per game at 3.65 after tonight. And when you take away special teams, where the Kraken have had a bit of an adventure so far this season with a not so great -14 in their differential, the Kraken at even strength are the best scoring team in the NHL with 113 even strength goals, and an NHL second best +33 even strength differential. Second only to the Boston Bruins have a +43, which is just insane at this point. Oh, and by the way, if you do like scoring and a lot of it, those 2 teams ahead of the Kraken in goals per game so far this season are 2 of the next 3 teams the Kraken face, in the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins. With there having been 12 goals in this game, though, we do kind of have to get to it. Before we get there, though, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows in Krakenland at the moment, as we did find out in the day off between these last 2 games that after having won gold on his birthday with Team Canada at the World Junior Classic, Shane Wright will not be returning to the team this season as he gets sent back to the OHL, where he is likely to get traded here in the next few days once the trade window opens for that league. But it did kind of catch me by surprise. I was expecting him to come back with the team. That having been said, it does kind of make some sense. He didn't necessarily blow everyone out of the water at the World Junior Classic, and although he did have that very good game against Montreal, the last NHL game he's played this season, given the unexpectedly good place the team's in at the moment, as well as being very healthy on the forward end. In fact, they don't have any injuries other than Donskoy, who we still have yet to see this season. There really just isn't an easy way to get him into the lineup, especially considering the Kraken are also an unusually deep team on the forward end and already have one too many guys that deserve to be in an NHL lineup, with Geeky, Donato, Tolvanen, and Sprong all playing like they should be in an NHL lineup game in, game out, but one of them has to sit because there just aren't enough spots. And if Wright were to come back, that would be 2 guys that you want to have in the lineup but don't have the space for. So it makes sense to send him back to the OHL, where even if development might not be something he gets a ton of at that level, he will at least get to play games. Now, yes, I know this flies right in the face of everything I was saying in November about the Shane Wright situation and when I did that video about what was happening with how he was being handled. But again, the team wasn't really expecting to be in the place they're at right now, not just record-wise, where they are halfway through the season in a very good chance to make the playoffs and are now fully in a playoff run. Again, even outside of the unexpectedly good start record-wise for the Kraken, it's pretty unexpected to halfway through the season have all of the forwards that you came into the season with still healthy. Again, there's still Donskoy, and yeah, they did trade out Tolvanen for Kuhlman, but to have all of your forward guys healthy at this point in the season, knock on wood that continues. Yeah, it's kind of weirdly just a situation that's left the Kraken at a point where, because so much is going well for them, they just don't have a place for Shane Wright. And the last thing I'll say on this for now, and I probably should have done a whole separate video about this, but finding time's been an issue. Before anybody says that he's a bust or that he sucks and wasn't ready for the NHL, I don't really think that's the case. Again, I just think it was kind of a perfect set of circumstances, and pretty unusual ones at that, that made it so that the Kraken didn't really have a spot for him at this point in time, in this point in his career. Again, he's just 18, 19-year-old kid that was maybe not fully ready to step into like a top 6 role, for example, like we saw with Beniers, which again would be pretty unusual for a kid of that age. And with the Kraken being a team that, unlike a lot of other teams that are playing as well as they are, that have a great top end and then maybe not such a good bottom end where you could fit him into that bottom end and at least get him a few minutes a night, the Kraken are so deep that that's really not an option. And they're also playing well enough that if they were playing or had a record like they did at this point last season, you could just throw them into games and not worry about it potentially costing you any points or playing around a guy and getting him the amount of time and development that he needs. But with the Kraken making a legitimate push at the playoffs, they have to be thinking about that first rather than what they can do to get this guy development at the NHL level. Anyway, I'm sure all of you have your own separate thoughts all across the spectrum on this situation, so feel free to let me know what you think down in the comment section about Shane Wright and going back to the OHL. But for now, we'll move on and get to this game, the 8-4 absolute domination of the Ottawa Senators to get the Kraken that 4th win in a row and 3rd on this road trip, staying undefeated in 2023. Again, knock on wood that continues. No lineup changes for the Kraken, which includes Jones in net for the 4th consecutive game, and even more than that if you want to count the game that he came in for Grubauer against Edmonton. But with the kind of up and down performance from him tonight, I would be interested to see if Grubauer maybe gets the next start. Either way, they've got a back-to-back coming up on Monday and Tuesday, so Grubauer will certainly get one of those starts with Jones getting the other. Again, Geeky at center instead of Donato on that 6th line, and for the Kraken, this time they didn't wait until the 2nd period to start scoring the goals. That having been said, it still was kind of a slow start to this game as 5 minutes in, there's only 3 shots on goal between the two teams, and they're all for the Ottawa Senators, kind of like what we saw against the Maple Leafs in Toronto, though this time I don't think that shot differential really told the story of the flow of the game, as the Kraken were certainly getting their chances, just not getting them on net. Meanwhile, Ottawa, well, maybe they were getting the edge to this point. We're certainly getting more of their chances actually on net, though the Kraken are doing a pretty good job of keeping most of that to the outside and making it fairly easy on Jones to make the saves. And that really continues until we reach almost the midway point of the first period, where the Kraken eventually do get on the board first. Schultz creates a turnover in the neutral zone, stealing the puck from Tkachuk, and that gets it over to Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand skates it in, and from about the faceoff circle with a defenseman right on him, fires off a shot. It's a perfect one off the far post and into the back of the net to give the Kraken that 1-0 lead on just their 2nd shot on goal of the game. It is just the 6th of the season for Bjorkstrand, but again, with the last 2 coming relatively recently, obviously this one in this game, hopefully that does mean that those floodgates are starting to open and we'll start seeing them go into the back of the net for him over this back half of the season. Unfortunately, though, as far as the game is concerned, it doesn't take long before we're tied back up at 1, and a relatively similar play ends up happening for Tkachuk and skates it into the offensive end where he's got 2 Kraken players in front of him, but he just fires off a shot as the 2 converge on him, and it beats Jones, I think far side, either it goes off one of the posts and into the back of the net to tie the game at 1. But like I said, in this game, the Kraken weren't waiting around to score their goals, as just 2.5 minutes later, back into the offensive end, Wennberg with the puck behind the Sens net, drops it off for Schwartz. Schwartz takes it the other way up and along the boards, circles around for a second, then fires off a crossing pass way over to the other side to McCann right through the entire Ottawa defense, and McCann quickly picks it up and fires it into the back of the net before there's much of a chance to get across and make the save for Forsberg in net. And just like that, the Kraken have the lead back on number 19's 19th of the season, which, by the way, halfway through the season, 19 goals for McCann is nothing to scoff at. Sure, it can get lost with some of the insane numbers being put up by McDavid and a few other guys, including Tage Thompson, who the Kraken are going to see in a few games' time. But still, 19 goals halfway through the season puts McCann just about on pace for 40 on the year, and that's a pretty good season no matter who you are. I mean, might actually be a little bit low for McDavid or Matthews, but again. Now, at this point in the game, even with the Kraken having the 2-1 lead, the Sens are still getting their chances. In fact, really throughout the entire first period, they were getting more chances to score than the Kraken were. I wouldn't say that they had a ton of momentum, but the momentum was slightly in their favor really the entire first period. The difference was that while Jones was making saves on pretty much every chance Ottawa got, when the Kraken did get their chances the other way, as we see 2.5 minutes after the Kraken score the 2nd goal, Seattle's making them count as they get their 3rd one. This goal, I will admit, is one of those goals that really only seem to go in when things are going your team's way. It's a shot that comes from up by the blue line off of Alexiak that ends up being tipped out in front in the slot by Schultz. So, your typical D-to-D tip in the slot type of goal, where Schultz hits the puck down at the ice, it bounces off the ice, and then maybe off of a couple more things. Either way, it ends up going over the pad of Forsberg and rolling into the back of the net before he can turn around and try and scoop it off the goal line. And with the Kraken's now 5th shot on goal, they're up 3-1. At which point, Forsberg gets pulled. So for those of you who are watching that game in Seattle against the Oilers, the last loss the Kraken had, where Grubauer gave up 3 goals on 5 shots, and a couple of them seemed like they were just kind of bad luck or bad defense, and you were wondering, why can't our team have things like this happen for us? Well, here you go. 5 shots and 3 goals for the Kraken, just like what happened to them in that last game of 2022. Almost immediately, though, after this goal goes in for the Kraken, with maybe a bit of luck, they decide to test that luck by sending the Senators to the power play. In spite of where their record might be at this point in the season, this is a very dangerous team with the man advantage, going up against, again at this point, the 31st best penalty kill in the league. Or I guess second worst is probably a better way to describe it. Now, to be fair, the Kraken penalty kill has been better of late, and so far on this road trip has run the gauntlet of power play teams, facing the best power play team in the NHL in the Oilers, then the 9th best in the Leafs, now the 3rd best in the Sens. And again, after that game in Montreal coming up, things aren't going to get any easier as far as that's concerned, as the Sabres at this point have the 2nd best power play, and the Bruins right after them have the 4th best. So hopefully the Kraken penalty kill can hold serve as they have been over these last few games over the rest of this road trip. And thanks to a couple nice saves from Jones, do so here in this late power play in the first in this game against the Sens. Unfortunately, the next power play the Sens get, a few minutes into the second, they do score on, and score pretty quickly, just a few seconds after winning the faceoff. Though with it being said, they do kind of get the lucky bounce that the Kraken got back in their direction. Okay, so I guess you don't have to have everything going your way to get a lucky bounce here and there, though maybe it's just player specific here, as it ends up being a puck that goes right to Tanev in front of the Kraken net, and he tries to clear it doing the right thing, but he clears it accidentally right into the skate of Stützle, and it goes into the back of net past Jones, who really doesn't have much of a chance. It's a lucky bounce off of his skate that gives the Ottawa Senators the power play goal again just a few seconds in, and makes it a 1-goal game, which not too much longer after that becomes a tie game. Once again, off of the stick of Tim Stützle. And again, like I just said, maybe it is player specific, because this one comes off of a rebound that goes right to his stick next to the net. As he's getting pushed over by Dunn, he's able to get one whack off at it, and that's enough to put it into the top of the net, tying the game up here. The original shot from Chabot goes right through the legs, or at least under Stützle as he's right next to the net, goes off the toe of Jones, again right out to Stützle, and again he scores. So a couple of nice bounces find his stick or skates and then find the back of the net off of him. So at this point, this second period is definitely feeling a little different from how the last two did. But it is also at this point that, since we were talking about differences from last season to this one, we get reminded of another one of the pretty big differences from last season to this one. It's a smaller thing, but a pretty big difference, and that is quick response goals, where last season, especially halfway through in January and February, it seemed to be a bit of a trend that whenever the Kraken would get a goal like this one for the Senators that seemed to get them back in it and get momentum going their way, within 30 seconds the puck would be in the back of their net, and that would be the end of that. And sure enough, the Kraken get 22 seconds later their league-leading 9th response goal after an opponent goal less than a minute later. It comes on an odd man rush as the Kraken actually end up losing the ensuing faceoff and having, I think, even the Senators get a shot on goal just seconds later, but the puck goes right back the other way. Again, Kraken with numbers, Sprong with the puck, and since we know the shot that he has, he looks at Tanev like he's going to pass it, but instead fires off the shot. I think it might have even been a no-looker. Either way, it confuses Talbot enough to get it past him into the back of the net and give the Kraken right back the lead. It's now 4-3. It's Sprong's 12th of the season that comes as the previous game-tying goal for Stützle is being announced over the home speakers. So for any Senators fans that might have been at this game and are watching this video, first of all, why, you masochist, are you watching this after that game? Second of all, believe me, after last season, I know how it feels to be excited about your team scoring a goal, hearing the excited announcement of that goal, and while that's happening, the opposing team goes right down and scores. But it does feel pretty good when it's your team doing it. And shortly after this goal from Sprong, the Kraken are also going to get their first and what would be only power play of the game, And while I think they only get one shot on goal officially on this, they do get a number of chances, and even if it isn't the best power play they've ever had, it certainly wasn't the worst. And it also serves to effectively give them decisive momentum for the first time really in this game. I mean, you could make the argument that Sprong's goal did that, but the power play certainly helped, and it's momentum that all leads up until the first line is out on the ice. Burakovsky traps the puck in the offensive end. As Talbot went out to throw it along the boards, Burakovsky jumps along the boards, it hits him in the back. He then quickly wins a battle for that puck along the boards, pushing it down into the corner where Eberle's there, getting it up to Beniers in the slot, who's worked his way into the offensive end after just a few seconds earlier taking a big hit in the defensive end that started this breakout in the first place. He got up from that hit, got his way down into the offensive end, just putting his head down, getting into the play rather than getting upset by the hit, and he's rewarded for it, getting that pass in the slot from Eberle, an open shot, and burying it into the far side of the net to give the Kraken the 5-3 lead and give Beniers his 14th of the season. So again, a great end-to-end 200-foot play from Beniers to start and finish this goal, and a great play in the offensive end from this entire first line to set up Beniers for that goal to give the Kraken back the 2-goal lead, which I will say, Eberle is the only one that gets the official assist. I think Burakovsky got absolutely robbed by the official scoring here. He ends the game with, spoiler alert, 1 goal and 2 assists for 3 points. Probably should have ended it with 4 points with 3 assists, missing this one. And a few minutes later, that is how we would get to the end of the second period, with the score still 5-3 Kraken. Though, that having been said, both teams had a good chance to score one more goal. Just a little bit after Beniers scores this one, he sets up Eberle for what should have been a tap-in goal for him, but Eberle kind of flubs the pass from Beniers, and that one ends up not going in. And then in the final minutes, or minute and a half of this second period, the Senators would get their third power play of the game, which the Kraken are able to kill off, and then also kill off the final 22 seconds to start off the third. And then, less than a minute after the Kraken finish off that kill, even though Eberle wasn't able to make it 6-3 Kraken in the second period, Dunn does make it 6-3 Kraken with a shot from the blue line, nobody in front of him, just a straight shot at the goal. He fires a laser into the back of the net. Well, I say a laser, it wasn't quite a Ellie Tolvanen shot, but it was a pretty nice shot from Dunn that just beats Talbot, who probably should have had a save here. There was nobody screening on it. Either way, it finds the back of the net, and the Kraken get that 3-goal lead. And thankfully, against a Senators team that again can put up some points, just like we saw in Toronto, the Kraken didn't back down with a pretty healthy lead here in the third. As a few minutes later, before the 5-minute mark, this time, once again with the first line out on the ice, it's Eberle who finishes the play. It's a shot from Burakovsky from Beniers that is saved, but rebounds out off of a Senators skate, then down to Eberle, who's next to the net, and Eberle puts it into an empty net, a pretty easy shot for him. And again, another fairly lucky bounce that goes the Kraken way and ends up in the back of the Sens net. So Eberle does end up getting his goal, but for Burakovsky, I think he definitely would have liked to have this one, at least at this moment in time anyway, as at that point he had been almost 11 games without having a goal, and Beniers set him up beautifully with a backhanded pass from along the boards behind the net that put Burakovsky wide open in front of the net. Talbot robbed him, and then there's the lucky bounce that ends up going to Eberle, who scores. But Burakovsky, I think, would have liked to have that one. Of course, as I already said, he does end up getting his a little bit later. Between this goal and that one, though, this is where Stützle does end up finishing off the hat trick. It's a very, very nice pass from Batherson. It's a spinning backhanded pass from right by the blue line as he's crossing it, with Kraken players on either side of him. That's basically the equivalent of if you watch the NBA, an NBA player jumping to get a ball from out of bounds and throwing it back in before they themselves go out of bounds. And that spinning pass backhanded finds Stützle wide open behind the Kraken defense, gets around Susi, and puts it into the net to finish off the hat trick, which, I mean, he kind of had the I got a hat trick, but we're still down 3 reaction to it. Still hats fly on the ice. The Senators fans have something to cheer about anyway, but it seems like a little bit too little too late. And sure enough, as a few minutes later, the Kraken end up putting the 8th one in the net, it does turn out that that was the case. And that 8th goal for the Kraken, of course, being the one for Andrei Burakovsky, right at the halfway point of the period. Eberle gets a crossing past Burakovsky, who's wide open on the far side of the net. He fires off a shot that he kind of flubs a little bit, and it goes off of the post and is going to stay out. but fortunately he hits the brakes as going behind the net and scoops it into the back of the net before any Senators player, including Talbot, can respond, getting his goal that breaks his goalless streak and also makes it obviously 8-4, giving him his 11th of the season. Though with that having been said, and even with him falling down the charts as far as goals are concerned, even behind Sprong now, he still does lead the team in points, which he adds to with the 3 points in this game, having 32, even if both Eberle and Beniers are right on his heels, Eberle with 31, and Beniers, the first rookie, to 30. Now, there is still 10 minutes left in the game, and at least partway through that 10 minutes, the Senators do give it the old college try to get one more goal, but they aren't able to, and the Kraken kind of just kill off the rest of the clock. They have a 4-goal lead halfway through the third, so all they have to do is really kill clock the rest of the way. They do that effectively and win this game, again, 8-4. A really complete 60-minute game, aside from maybe the first few minutes of the second. Obviously, that little window there where they give up 2 goals to Stützle to tie the game. But all things considered, they're able to rebound immediately from that and then just continue to pile on from there. And as far as the 3 stars in the game are concerned, well, I don't think it'll come as too much of a surprise that all 3 stars, my stars anyway, Stützle does get one of the official stars, which interrupts the 3 that I would have given out. The first 2 are the same, that being Burakovsky with the first, Eberle with the second, and the third will finish off that first line with Matty Beniers. That first line, every shift they were out there, it seemed like they were going to score a goal, especially halfway through the second, the rest of the way. Like I said, they each got 3 points. Well, Beniers got 2, but the other 2 got 3 points and could have easily added on to that had Eberle been able to tap that one in. Maybe a couple of honorable mentions that I'll throw in there would be Vince Dunn and Daniel Sprong, especially with Sprong having that goal that really turned the game. And as far as turning point is concerned, that Sprong goal was certainly the turning point to give the Kraken that 22-second response and give them the lead back. And Dunn, another fantastic game. Again, it's pretty much par for the course at this point for Dunn. Still, though, that first line easily 1, 2, and 3 as far as stars are concerned. And with that, with this video already probably going pretty long considering the Shane Wright situation and talk about Kraken scoring to this point in the season, I think we'll call it there. So again, let me know down in the comment section what you thought of this game, who your stars would be, and if you haven't already, what you think about the whole Shane Wright situation. Is at this point, I think we'll pretty much move on from it, except for keeping tabs on how things go for him in the OHL and maybe who he ends up getting traded to, as that's likely coming. And to be clear, traded in the OHL, he's still a part of the Kraken organization going forward for a long time coming. If you have made it to this point, though, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. Until next time, in Montreal, as the Kraken finish up the Canadian part of this road trip, stay safe out there, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!